Dan Heyman for Motor Illustrated, coming to you from just outside of Stuttgart, Germany, which of course Mercedes-Benz calls home, and this of course is a Mercedes-Benz. This is the 2022 Mercedes-Benz EQB, and if it looks like the GLB that we all know and many of us love, well, that's because it pretty much is, except for one major difference. There's no grille here because you don't need a grille, because there's no gas engine to cool underneath this hood. This is a full EV vehicle, or battery electric vehicle, BEV. It's got 419 kilometers of range according to the European testing cycle, about 292 European horsepower, room for 5 or 7. That's right, this could be a 3-row SUV or crossover if you want it to be, which makes it one of only 2 3-row EVs available in Canada today. It's got all sorts of great autonomous driver aids, stuff that Mercedes has kind of become well known for these days. We're going to take this for a drive around Stuttgart to see what all that's about. So stepping into the EQB, it's very GLB in here. That means lots of headroom, pretty good seating position. Seats are a bit flat. All the controls are nice and easy to reach. Very kind of straight up and down dash here, so they're easy to see. Dual 10-inch display, actually 10.25-inch displays as well for your gaze cluster and your infotainment system. Kind of neat new features, the rose gold vents here. You can also get rose gold wheels and rose gold exterior coloring. That's pretty unique, I would say. But otherwise, it's comfortable up here, lots of room up here. That was never a problem with the GLB, and it seems that the EQB carries on that tradition. When I drove the EQB's GLB cousin, I was really impressed with the second row headroom mainly. It's quite cavernous in that vehicle, and I was worried that with all this battery tech stuff underneath here, I'd lose one of the coolest interior features I had with that car, and that was the amount of space in the second row. But as you can see, it's awesome back here. Still really spacious, lots of room for me and my 6'3" frame. The seat isn't jamming up against my knees. I only lose about 20 millimeters of space here to the GLB. That's all it is. Otherwise, it's all the same. So that means great headroom, central armrest, all that kind of stuff, cup holders like that, all that great stuff. Like the GLB, the seats are a little flat in here. Gonna slide around a little bit as the car starts to turn, but space-wise, not a problem whatsoever. Still one of the great surprises of this vehicle. So on the road in Germany, I'm gonna just keep repeating that because it's so cool that I'm in Germany now after all this time. In the new EQB, I mentioned 292 European horsepower in the intro, translates to 288 horsepower in Canada and 383 pound-feet of torque, fed to all 4 wheels through a 1-speed direct drive automatic transmission. And as I mentioned before, that's an electric motor on both the front and back axle. The way the power is distributed can be adjusted by the computer depending on what's going on. In its most basic state, it's more of a rear bias setup, which is nice for handling and so on, but when you need the traction and so on, you can count on having all 4 wheels doing that work. Because I've got a direct drive transmission here, power delivery is instantaneous. There's no delay there. And having driven the GLB 35, very fast, very cool vehicle, that feels quick. This feels at first tip in even quicker because there's no delay in power delivery, which is kind of one of the party tricks that all EVs have these days, or most EVs have these days, and one that, you know, we all appreciate, of course. So good power delivery, good power levels, and of course 419 kilometers of range, as mentioned before. Now that can be played around with. You can get more or less range depending on how you drive the vehicle, also depending on how much regen you use. How much regen, that means how much power is regained as you slow down, can vary depending on what you do with these paddles here. Now normally these paddles are made to handle shifting up, shifting down, and so on, but here changes how much regen you get. So you flip the left one a few times, you get more drag. You flip the right one for more regen. More drag equals more regen. Flip the right one, then you get less regen. Now if you hold either of them down, you get an auto mode, and what that does is it judges what's going on around you. Traffic, the hill you're climbing, the conditions, the weather, what time it is in Timbuktu, stuff like that, and it modifies the regen depending on all that kind of stuff as well. Now, why wouldn't you always leave it in auto mode? Well, there's a few explanations. One, sometimes you don't want any brake regen or as little as possible. You want a smoother ride, so you turn it off. Two, there are people out there who think they're smarter than the 5.5 million computers that are on board here. At three, regulations stipulate, according to Mercedes, that you can't have a drive mode active that does all the throttle modulation for you when you start the car. You have to set that yourself. It's a regulatory thing, and as usual, we blame the lawyers. But the fact that you have all these choices, again, helps reduce your range anxiety, helps get you a little more kind of oomph from every charge you get in the EQB. I've got an auto right now, and I'll probably keep it in auto most of the time. Now, speaking of the computers doing everything for you, this is a very autonomous vehicle. It has a level of one pedal driving. It won't take you all the way down to zero if you release the gas, but it will take you down quite slowly until the point where you have to tap the brakes to get you to stop. But if you have cruise control in traffic, you can go through stop and go traffic. It will do all that boring, annoying work for you at those speeds. That's just the tip of the iceberg. You can have the computers read the speed limits around you and adjust the cruise control depending on the speed limit in the area you're coming to. Now, in North America, it's not quite so obvious why that would be advantageous. Certain parts is, but here where I'm driving in Europe, where speed limits change by the second, it's a nice feature to have because it becomes kind of hard to keep track of it. Now, you drive these roads enough, you'll know where all the different speed limits are, but as a new driver here, you don't, and so to have that system doing it for you is kind of handy. And that's also, for just not quite the tip, but further down the iceberg, keep going even deeper. That autonomous system will brake for you as it senses roundabouts coming, traffic slowing down. I drove off the highway, took the exit ramp, took 2 roundabouts, and came to a red light. And the only time I had to actually hit the brakes myself was when I came to that red light. This is a really smart car. And of course, in addition to the navigation system, which we haven't talked about yet, it's not just your standard navigation system. This one here can be set to give you all the charge points along your route. It can show you how much power you'll have once you get to them, how long you need to stay there to, actually, you know what? Instead of just telling you, I'll show you all that. Have a look at this. So what we're looking at here is Mercedes navigation with electric intelligence. Not the most original sounding name, but it does a good job of illustrating what this is all about. Right now, I've got my navigation set from this golf course I'm currently at. I forget what it's called. It's called that. there you go, whatever that is, to Köln in Germany, which is 477 kilometers away. If I hit this up here, this tells me all the charge spots I'm going to need along my way, or I'm going to meet along the way, and how long I've got to wait at each one for, and how much charge I should have once I arrive there. That's all modifiable, as well as my final destination, at which point I should have 25% charge when I arrive. You could change that. This, by the way, this green kind of halo here shows me how far I can go with my current charge. But I can go back here, go into my navigation menu here, go through advanced, go to route, go to charging stations, and this lets me choose how much charge I want to have once I arrive at my final destination, and it modifies the route accordingly. It takes into account geography, what traffic might be, and so on, to give you the most charge possible. Really cool stuff that should do a lot to ease range anxiety, because you have a very clear diagram here of where all your charging is going to happen, how often, and for how long you have to stay. Then, of course, there are the voice activation features. Hey, Mercedes.
How can I help?
Turn driver seat heat level to level 1.
I'm setting the seat heating on the driver's seat to level 1.
Hey, Mercedes.
How can I help?
Play classic rock on Amazon Music. Still going. It'll get there. Post Malone? That's not classic rock. Oh, there we go. All right. Okay. Open your eyes. And another advantage to this EV, in addition to the quick power delivery, is the center of gravity over the GLB has been brought down, actually, because you've got all that battery tech stuffed into the floorboards of this vehicle. You still have ride height enough to be able to clear Canadian winters, but you've got all that tech stuffed in there, and that lowers the center of gravity, so you get less body roll through turns, and you get just more comfort in general, better aero, all that kind of stuff with a slightly kind of lower sitting car, which is kind of another one of these kind of unseen features that this EV model offers you. The main thing that I'm feeling as I drive this, in addition to how fast it can be if you want it to be, is how quiet it is. Of course, there's no engine noise, but road noise has been reduced. Wind noise is not bad. It's also very smooth riding. Again, one of the benefits of that lower center of gravity isn't just in turns, over bumps and everything as well. It's quite smooth and also quiet. This is a luxury vehicle from a luxury manufacturer, so those are important facets of it. And if you talk to Mercedes, they'll tell you that a lot of people are contemplating the switch to EV. Well, pretty soon they're going to have to because of all the rulings that are coming down, but they're contemplating the switch to EV because the cars are so much quieter and they're so much more relaxing to drive. So it's for the most part very comfortable to drive. A few things are cropping up as I spend more time in it. The pedal angle is quite steep, so I'm finding I'm having to kind of lift my foot against my shin a little more than I'm used to, even if I move the seat back, and I don't want to move the seat too far back because I've got the long leg, I've got the T-Rex long leg, short arm syndrome, so I can't move the seat too far back lest I no longer am able to reach the wheel. So there's that. The seat, like I said, a little bit flat, so it doesn't keep me quite as centered in the seat maybe as it would be the slightly more side bolstering. But other than that, though, comfortable car, comfortable to sit in, comfortable to drive. Of course, the third row option, which I know sounds kind of crazy in a compact SUV like this or crossover like this, but I've tried that third row. Surprisingly usable for adults. I wouldn't want to spend much more than 34, maybe 38 seconds in there. Okay, that's a bit extreme, but it is actually, it can be used by an adult for a short time. Mostly it's going to be kids, and it can be kids of many sizes too, because there's ISO fix latches on the third row and in the second row as well. So that's kind of surprising too. So that third row, I guess, is meant to use, and Mercedes says there's a surprisingly high take rate of that third row, even if the people that are getting it aren't using it all that much. And of course, there's kind of all the extracurricular stuff going on around the EQB. The North American cars are built in a factory in Hungary, a brand new factory that is carbon neutral. And of course, you're driving an EV vehicle, so there's no carbon emissions either. The company is always developing their charging network, constantly refining it and establishing new partnerships with various charge companies in Canada to have even more chargeability. Right now, they've got a partnership with ChargePoint, and I'm told there are more to come. And possibly by the time you see this, there already have been more partnerships established. The charge network is one that the end goal is to make it so you don't have to worry about fumbling with credit cards or various apps. You just plug in and go, because it's already all preloaded, which is great. I've driven many EV vehicles, and yeah, fumbling for credit cards and figuring out apps can be kind of annoying. Don't have to worry about that with the EQB. So there's all the kind of stuff going on around it, as well as the drive itself, which all kind of add to its qualities. Yeah, so the pedal angle's a bit rough. It's kind of splitting hairs, because the rest of this is really quite good. Great interior space, comfortable ride, good powertrain, good range, nice styling, nice tech features, great navigation system, a lot of stuff to help reduce range anxiety as well, and of course, the third row option. Thanks for tuning in to this video, and until next time, sayonara, folks.